Hey, this is a day late and $1 short. I have ruminated, cogitated, considered, and reflected on the topic of the day. This is not your normal teaser lead-in, and this is not our normal episode. Enjoy!
Welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast with the goal to educate, inform, and save their listeners time as they navigate the market and properties in their neighborhoods. Get ready to join real-life siblings and professional real estate advisors, Donna Reed and Eric Seemann, as they discuss how it may be simple, but it ain't always easy.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast that is altogether unique, unconventional, unusual, and a little abnormal. And seriously, it just ain't typical. I'm Eric, and well, right now I should say she's Donna, and we are the Real Siblings. But I'm alone today. Normally we get together and record this together, but a week ago my sister had her right knee replaced. We had grand ideas that we would get together and record this, our 36th episode, a few weeks ago, when we were actually together in Denver for my nephew and Donna's youngest son's, Caleb's, wedding. If you're a regular listener, thanks for joining us twice a month. And if this is your first time to listen, welcome, and I hope you enjoy my solo adventure behind the mic. Donna and I are both professional real estate agents with Keller Williams, working in southwest states of Arizona and Texas. Generally, Donna is somewhere in Tucson where she lives and works, while I'm somewhere in the South Texas area, and we get together on a Zoom call, and we record an episode together. To ensure Donna was included in this episode, for those of you looking on YouTube, I added her photo behind me. So, hi sis, and yes, it's a bit distracting. You can see two of me, or me with the co-host. I'm going to try to keep myself positioned for those of you watching, covering up my face. Next, if she was doing the intro, or I would say some trifle of absurd information about us. Well, as I mentioned, Donna had a knee replacement, and she is quickly becoming the bionic woman as she has now replaced both her knees along with one of her hips. I'm apparently holding up better as her substantially younger brother, and I've only had my left knee replaced. This podcast blends lifestyle together with real estate as we work to communicate, educate, connect, and entertain our listeners. While the topics vary and our conversations go many directions, maybe not so much input from my sister today, we endeavor to provide our listeners with insights into our industry, better equipping them for their next real estate transaction. And as this has become a solo project, I've had a lot of thoughts on what to cover. And honestly, until I was preparing just before I started record, what the single topic to discuss, and that was a problem. So honestly, I've finalized it, and we present this as a real estate and lifestyle podcast, and today I want to focus on lifestyle. If you've been a listener since the beginning of June in 2022, or joined us in January of 22, or as I mentioned earlier, maybe this is your first listen, I'm going to reference you and suggest you go back to an early episode of Season 2 when I proposed the idea that it was possible to summarize or capture your lifestyle in 3 words. In fact, I challenged Donna to do it, and well, we found out it ain't easy. I've spent the better part of a year thinking about this as I've worked with clients, driven around town, sat in meetings, taught real estate pre-licensing courses and watched TV, and even as I tried to relax. Many times we meet with new clients. The conversation immediately begins with details about the house. It starts something with a, we need, and then you go ahead and fill in the blanks. 4 bedrooms, 3 living places, an island kitchen, wood floors, or tile, or carpet. It needs to be a single story or a 2-story. No split level will be accepted. I want a street that is not busy, a cul-de-sac, a large lot. So several of these final needs, you can hear, they're more subjective in nature. Personally, For those of you who listen, you know I live remote. I live in the Texas Hill Country on 13 acres. To get to my house, you take a 5-mile dead-end street, turn onto a private road that turns into a dead-end street, that turns into another dead-end street. What is not busy to me may mean something entirely different to the individual buyer or prospective client that we're speaking with. I don't know what is or is not busy to them. I've had clients in the past who I took them just to the outskirts of San Antonio where I live and work, and they thought, wow, it's so quiet. It's too quiet. They are more used to inner city noise, and the traffic gives them a comfort level. So their idea and perception of busy is very, very different than what somebody else's idea of busy may be. So Donna lives in a townhome. She has neighbors with adjoining houses on both her left and right, or properties or homes, whatever word you might want to use in there. I also need to remind you that from our perspective, we grew up in a town that now, according to the 2020 census, had about 450 people. It still has stop signs only and not a single traffic light. How am I to judge? Also, I mentioned I'm on 13 acres. What's a large lot? For me, anything that's less than 5 acres is a small lot. For someone else, that may mean that it needs to be a 1/4 of an acre. And when you think a 1/4 of an acre, that's still over 10,000 feet. If your house only takes up 3,000 to 4,000 of that square footage, then you have 6,000 square feet of yard and landscaping to take care of. And that's a big difference to some people. They're not interested in that. It may also be important that we have a discussion about the difference when we're meeting with our clients about needs and wants. Needs are those things that are, from my standpoint, the absolutes. Every house should have 3 absolutes. I found that working with couples, the 2 persons involved in that have very different idea of what the needs are. So hopefully they overlap some and we only have 3 or 4 needs. But it can be more than that. After that, everything is a want, and you have to be willing to potentially sacrifice on your wants. Maybe the first thing you need to understand when you're working with a real estate agent, man, I messed that up, in either buying or selling, is a little bit about your background. There's a reason both Donna and I try to sit down and get to visit with our clients or prospective clients in order to get an idea of where they're from, what they're used to, what the relocation is, why they're coming to the area that they're coming into. Are they upsizing? Are they downsizing? Maybe they're long-term residents. There's a lot of things that go into that. But when you boil it down, I've broken this down to say 3 words, what can you use to describe your lifestyle? So my first big question that honestly tells me a lot about your lifestyle is, do you desire to live as a tenant renter or as a homeowner? The answer to that single question tells me a lot about your lifestyle. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree. Maybe you're for an example, a more seasoned citizen, no longer wants the obligation of managing and maintaining a property and its improvements. You want to downsize, you don't need 4,000 square feet anymore. 1,500 is going to be fine, and maybe that's too big. Maybe you're young and planning a 2-year stint in an area because you're finishing up a school, master's degree. In San Antonio, we have the University of Texas Health Science Center. There are many, many, many future doctors, medical students who come through that area on a 2-year specialization program or a fellowship. If that's the case, and you're going to be moving on to someplace else, buying may not be for you. Maybe you're a social person and you like neighbors, which is why you're saying, I want to rent, because typically a rental, if it's not a residential rental, is going to put you closer to potential neighbors. So, are you a renter or are you going to be a homeowner? Question number 2. My ideal location to reside is, and I have this as a multiple choice question. Are you a centrist, urban center person? Are you urban? Are you suburban? Are you rural? Are you farm and ranch? Or are you off the grid? That again, second lifestyle, rent or own. If you're centrist, urban, suburban, maybe even rural, rental may be an option. Once you get outside of that, probably not likely. And when I say centrist, let me explain what I mean by that. Here in San Antonio, there is the downtown. The Alamo, historic building, most visited tourist attraction in the state of Texas, sits right in the heart of downtown on, as you may guess, Alamo Street. So if you put the hands of a clock on the Alamo and started working it around, think of a clock. There is a loop of 3 highways, Highway 281, Highway 35, and Highway 10, which kind of circles the downtown area. That is what I would consider to be centrist or urban center. You are down in the heart of, as much as there is in San Antonio, the business and tourist district. That may be what you like. Maybe you're urban. You don't want to be too far out of town. I already used the example that you may be a person who decides that you like road noise. It makes you feel comfortable. Occasionally hearing a siren or a flasher doesn't disturb your sleep at all. For me, I can hear a loud truck 2 miles away, and that's unusual, and that can wake me up. What about suburban? Suburban means now you're outside, but you still have convenient access to many of those typical resources. You've got medical services, you've got emergency rooms, you've got pharmacies, you've got grocery stores, you've got a selection of restaurants, and let's face it, you in any of these 3 locations can probably get DoorDash, some sort of food delivery or things like that. Where I'm at, not an option. All right, so now let's go to rural. Rural, what does that mean? There are areas outside of a city that are no longer part of the city itself. It may be a suburb, but in this case, I'm talking about a rural suburb. And here again in South Texas, to the south and east of downtown San Antonio, say 4 o'clock on the clock, as I used the Alamo as the center and the hands of a clock. There are a couple of small towns, Lavernia, Floresville, Marion. Those areas are definitely more rural. You're going to be able to get a house that may be on 1.5 acres, but it's not farm and ranch property. So that's what I mean by rural. And then farm and ranch obviously seems to be pretty self-explanatory, right? We're talking about something where you can raise, cultivate crops, animals, maybe an organic farm or something along those lines, and then you get to off the grid. And honestly, where I live, 13 acres, which in my case is almost entirely a rock hillside, not the best for farming or ranching, especially to anybody who grew up in our hometown area, Lindsey, Ohio, which was Farm Belt. As I was growing up, and I think we've talked about it in past episodes, that was corn, that was wheat, that was sugar beets at one time, it was tomatoes, it was cucumbers, soybeans, those types of crops. None of that in my area. Closest real good crop in my area is cotton. And that's down to the south and west over in Medina County. So I'm off the grid. I have my own septic system. I have my own well. I have a geothermal air conditioner. I have considered putting in a rainwater catch system. And until our electric co-op decided to add a fiber internet service 5 years ago, I had to use a satellite to connect to the world. When I first got in here, I've been here long enough, dial-up was still an option. Dial-up service on a 56K modem connected at about 7,200. It took me minutes to load a 3 or 4 line email with no attachments. So, off the grid, you may have seen that in some of your Alaska TV shows on HGTV, DIY, something like that. All right, number 3. Add to lifestyle. And this is where you get into what you're looking to live in. And again, this is part of lifestyle, not necessarily just about the house. Are you looking for an apartment, a condominium? Are you looking for something that's multifamily, a townhome, a garden home, or a single family residence? Again, those things are very, very and distinctly different. If your apartment, you're pretty much telling me you plan on renting. So, if you say you want to live in an apartment, but you want to own, those two don't go together and we have to have a discussion. Condominiums, you can rent or own. Multifamily units, duplex, triplex, quadplex, those type of units, again, you can own it, but then you're telling me not only do you want a place to live, but you potentially want to create and generate income. different part of your lifestyle, and not everybody's into that sort of thing of wanting to manage the headaches of somebody else creates in the unit that they live in. Townhome. Again, you like neighbors. Condominiums and townhomes definitely are going to come with some sort of owner's association where you're paying fees and dues, and you need to be ready for that. What about a garden home? Now you're talking to something that's single family home, stands alone. For the most part, here in San Antonio, Donna lives in a townhome that's connected. There are both types available. Donna's is a single story. I think some of the places out where she's at have a second level, but minimal. So townhomes, 1 story, 2 story, 3 story, again, depending on where in the country you want to live. There are homes in Chicago where my mom had a lot of her family that were 3 flats. People could live on one of the floors, or you could live on multiple floors and maybe somebody in just 1 floor. Finally, garden home. Garden home, not much yard, separate living space. And a single family is now where you start to have yard and can give you more space for adding things like a pool, a storage shed, a workshop, things along those lines. And the more land you have, the more you have freedom to do. So, if you think about how these all blend, I can assure you that as a tenant renter, if your lifestyle is you intend to pay rent at that price, if you want to rent, you may have to sacrifice location because rents vary greatly across location. And that's part of the discussion. So telling me that you want to be a renter, but you want to be a farm and ranch renter, leasing farm space, yeah, surface leases happen a lot in farm and ranch, but it's generally for crops, for grazing, for hunting, or even petroleum, possibly as a surface lease. If your goal is to limit maintenance and care, such as mowing a lawn, then guess what? If you want to be a renter, maybe a garden home or a single family home is not going to be the option. Why? Because most single family residences require that the tenant take care of yard maintenance and upkeep. There are some who have a great deal of money invested into the landscaping where the owners are going to have a service provided for that. My experience, that's about 15%, so that means 85% of the listings, you got to do it yourself. So if you're planning to rent and avoid that, guess what? That's going to limit your options. All right, what about if you like close neighbors and amenities of a condominium or townhome? And by amenities, I mean there's generally some sort of fitness center with a lot of condos and townhomes. There's outdoor areas such as picnic areas, maybe basketball or some other type of sports court, swimming pools, things along those lines. But if you want to live remotely, well, guess what? You get remotely, you get out to that rural area, you're not going to find a whole lot of condominium and townhomes as an option. And if you do, they're normally very, very minimal. Most I've seen are typically like 4, maybe 6 units total in an area. The amenities are not there. So you can see how I'm blending these things and how I'm hoping you're getting the point on what I'm trying to say. That is 3 questions to ask yourself. Can you summarize your lifestyle by saying, I'm an owner, mindset, I want to live urban or suburban, rural's too far out from me, absolutely not interested in farm and ranch, or I want to be in a condominium townhome. Those all answer questions to me that now help me to understand where you want to be, where you want to go. Would help my sister, would help me, would help the realtor you're going to work with in your area. What's your goals? What's your objectives? What's your lifestyle? So I am going to work and document in progress to prepare as a PDF, post it on our website to make it available for you to download so that you can, ta-da, take a stab at looking at these, have a discussion with your significant other. Maybe that's your pet if you're a single individual. Maybe it's a family member, somebody you can bounce some ideas off and say, hey, how would you, or a friend, ask the question, see what you can come up with. If you're making a move upsizing or downsizing, just consider that lifestyle cannot and should not be separated from your needs and wants in the physical structure of the property. Make sure all things are in alignment. Now, I've been alone on this. I expect Donna will have some ideas to contribute to this concept, and I hope to visit again on it soon after the first of the year as we launch season 3. And now, well, I can't throw it to my co-host like we normally do. One of us opens, one of us closes. To close this episode, let me wrap this up by saying we want to thank everyone for listening, joining us, well, me, as I've talked about little bit about Lindsey. Lifestyle of Lindsey, Ohio impacted our lives and careers in real estate. Not just the houses, it is not just the lifestyle. It is a blend of the two. As I conclude today, please keep in mind that our goal, my goal, Donna's goal, is to communicate, educate, entertain, and connect with our listeners. We are both realtors with Keller Williams, and we are here to help you find that perfect property for your family to call home and create your own lasting memories and build your own wonderful life. That's a reference to a Donna Reed movie. It's the holidays. You should look up It's a Wonderful Life. If you live in San Antonio or South Central Texas, I'm available to assist you, while Donna is in Tucson, Arizona, and can help you there. If you're across the United States or around the world, we are both part of extensive networks of professional real estate advisors and would be happy to connect you with an amazing realtor. And ta-da, we just did that for one of our own siblings. Ken got him connected with Rudy up in Illinois, and they are under contract for a new home. Remember, it may be simple, it ain't always easy. And until next time, I'm Eric, without my sister Donna, and we are Real Siblings.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and I want to thank you for investing your valuable time in listening to Real Sibling. It Ain't Easy. I hope you found this episode informative and enjoyable. There are several ways you can support this podcast with my Grandpa Eric and Aunt Grandma. Please take the time to like, follow, and subscribe. Additionally, leave them a 5-star rating along with a review on your preferred podcast platform. The final thing I would ask is that you recommend this podcast to a friend, a family member, or an associate. Your engagement is critical to their ongoing success, and they look forward to connecting. Check out the show notes Grandpa put together with their contact information, including emails, phone numbers, and website. And remember, the Real Siblings look forward to hearing from you.